Hiya, this is LindaLee, and I am making, this is like one of my first recordings for YouTube. I've got a couple more posted, but this is the first time I'm doing one specifically with YouTube in mind. First, I want to thank everybody who's subscribed to my channel. I'm very small so far, but I'm gonna grow. At least that's my full intention, to put out videos so that, to build subscribership and everything that comes along with it. But what I want to do is a lot of my videos are going to be around my crafting. And what I do is I make junk journals and everything that would fill a junk journal. And some stuff that doesn't necessarily go in a junk journal, but at the same time, what is a junk journal? And for everybody who isn't familiar, that's what I'm going to try and explain, at least in a way that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is pretty much try and answer those questions. What I've done is I pulled a book out. This is the very first one that I ever completed, that I kept for myself. This is a book that has been made from recycled items. Actually, if you were to Google junk journal, it offers a definition that says it's a handmade book made up of recycled items. And then it gives a whole bunch of examples for the materials. So papers, magazines, brochures, music paper, envelopes, junk mail. The list is pretty much endless as to what can be used. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, a few handful of pages to kind of get you familiar with what this is, before I move on to the second question that's come up, and that's, what is a snippet roll? So first, this here is a junk journal. And it's made up of, this is a hard-covered book that's been covered with pattern paper. I do have some metal pieces on the corners, just a design element. Nothing is really necessary of it. If you are using like a cereal box and covering that, then the corners would maybe potentially offer more stability. But at the same time, mostly it's just ornamental. Now, when I gutted this book, it had a much narrower spine. But I knew that I wanted to kind of put several signatures or groups of pages in it. And so I made a bigger back piece of it and then kind of created the book with other papers. So I'm going to flip through a few pages, just give you an idea kind of what it is. So these are pattern papers that came out of a paper pad. And each group of pages, so this is a group of pages here, if we look at the very top of it, is called a signature. So these here, I have 5 signatures in this book. And each group of pages then offers places for journaling, memory keeping, thoughts, ideas, pictures. This is just a little paper bag that I stamped. Also, there's a lot of little pieces of a book that my parents had given me quite a few years ago that was kind of faded and just collecting dust, and I had actually forgotten about the book. So what I did is I pulled bits and pieces out of it and I've used it as decoration with now I can't think of what the name of this stuff is. And it's very basic and a standard supply in what we do. But anyway, you'll see little pieces of this along the way. So this is a tag. Again, it's got that little book. It was about daughters. And so to read it, it says, "I want to tell you that I'm so proud of you and I dearly love you." So this was a book that I got from my mom and dad. It was a book of poems. But what I really wanted to show you is this right here is what's called a tuck spot. So pieces of paper or notes can be actually stuck up in there. Now this being a tag, you can journal on the back. We can journal on a page. We can write on the bag here. We can also stuff little things inside the pocket because this is just a stitched bag that's folded in half. So when we get to the other half of this signature, we're going to see the other half of this bag. So it's been sewn. Coffee dyed paper has been added to it. Little bits of that book and stamps. So this here is just a piece of pink paper that's been torn. A doily and a coffee filter. This is a pink dyed, just simple piece of paper that's been stamped and has ornamental washi tape. So it's almost like a decorative masking tape. That's what I have on there. This is just a little piece of a greeting card that I used a ornamental scissor on here. I distressed the corners. So these are all kinds of terms that, I'll use all the time. But again, it's been stamped, and this is washi tape. And the doily and the coffee filter form little pockets so that I can tuck my stuff in here, but I still have the pages that I can actually journal on. So here's another little pocket, another piece of paper that's just torn, washi tape to decorate it. But you can kind of get the idea. This is a book page that I've distressed. I've mounted onto cardstock. I've stamped it. And then I put lined paper on the back with a stamp and distressing and a piece of torn lace just to decorate it. Now here is an envelope. So this is the top part of the envelope that I'm using like a tuck spot. And over here is the bottom of it. So here is the bottom half of the envelope that's a pocket. And I stitched a torn piece of brown bag here. And I've got this little bitty label in there. Oops. So that's like a little tuck spot. So it just kind of keeps that little bitty piece of ephemera or decoration there. Cardstock. A little envelope I made from a bag, more pieces of that book with stamping, sewing. So you kind of get the idea of what this is. Here's a full-size coffee filter. This is like a vellum piece of paper, and this is a page from a coloring book that I copied. I got a thing for ladybugs, so this particular page I actually started to color. And then it just sat in a pile of papers. It had, was about to be forgotten about. And so I put it in this book. So that's kind of what this junk journal stuff is all about. This is the center of the signature where it's literally sewn into a piece of cardboard that's then glued into the book. This is the part that it's sewn to, and then it's glued to the book, so that way the stitching doesn't show on the outside. But there's different ways of doing that too. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you. I'm not going to show you the whole book, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this is. So now we're looking at the second half of all the individual pieces that were on the other side. So, and here's the coffee filter and doily, the pink pages, all of which can be written on. Pictures can be taped or glued to. So that's a junk journal. Okay. So now that we've kind of seen that, let me show you what the snippet is, because that's another question that's come up a lot, that different folks have said, well, what's a snippet? Because I've been selling them on the group page. I'm actually a part of a group that's called Junk Journal Junkies, etc., ETC. Excuse me. This here is their mug that shows their logo. It's run by Kelly Snow, who also has a YouTube channel and has videos that's everything journal, junk journal. She also has an Etsy store, Bygones Variety Shop. And in that variety shop, she sells her own artwork, journals, envelopes, a lot of pieces that she's personally made, and then all the supplies to make most everything that she makes as well. So it's a good place for me and anybody else to go to, especially if you're trying to find stuff you can't find other places. She's usually got some unique items. But in the group, it's a huge group, and the people that come to it are, from all walks of crafting. A lot of scrapbookers, a lot of multi or mixed media artists. So this is just kind of one more avenue for your creativity. But it also creates a really cool book, a really cool place, a really great gift for people to journal and, keep their memories. So what I'm doing here is kind of placing out a few snippet rolls. So what a snippet roll is, it's a long piece of fabric, and what it's designed for is basically snipping and then decorating those pages. So I don't have any snippets in the journal that I made, only because I didn't know what a snippet was back when I first started, which is almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in June. But now that I do know, what a lot of the different things are, I use a lot more fabric in my junk journals and in my pockets and file folders and blah, blah, blah. Everything. I use more fabric than I used to. Different pieces of lace. This is a textile. We've got vintage chenille. I've got vintage buttons. This here is mother of pearl. This is abalone. This one is also abalone. The theme to this particular snippet, this is for someone specific, a friend of mine, Kathy. She had a project that she wanted this for, and she had shown me some pictures, so I had an idea, colors and whatnot. And this is what I came up with for her. So this was something specific that this one was made for. Usually when I make them, I just make them. They're fairly neutral. Some of them are more color specific. But, yay, look at it. Isn't it pretty? I love them. So these are just charms, seashells, little vintage buttons. These I just got in a haul that I got this past weekend of buttons. So yeah, I go to flea markets and yard sales, and I'm always looking for the odd stuff to put in a book. But anyway, that's what this one was made for. So we got little pieces of like a larger crocheted piece. That's what this is. We've got some more modern fabric and some vintage fabric. This one is actually coffee dyed. I got it in what's called a rack. So in our group, we have what's called a wall of inspiration, and we have different random acts of kindness, or racks, that we gift to each other. So rather than explain all that just yet, I'm going to show you this one here is also for Kathy, but she just said pink, and this is what I came up with for pink. So again, different little bits of fabric and buttons and charms, and it's sewn onto, this is a reclaimed piece of fabric. The other one was actually on muslin. By reclaimed, I mean it was something that was otherwise would have been probably garbage. Some of them I get at a thrift store, some of them at a yard sale, some of them come from my own closet. So, little cameo charm. This one is a cameo button. I think this one is one of my favorite vintage buttons. I have a couple of them, different colors. See, here's this other one, similar. So anyway, I also have made them without all the embellishments or decorations. So that's what these two are representing. So this one here, this is from a thrifted valance. So this strip of fabric was torn from basically a curtain. And then I sewed these vintage, this muslin, old flat piece of lace, different linens, upholstery fabrics. But this one isn't decorated. So whomever might want this one, because they're definitely for sale, can put their own, their own decorations on it. Just like this one. This is a different color scheme. Same green, but at the same time, different linens and fabrics and laces. So if let me just cover this up for a moment. What I want to show you is one of the snippet rolls that I've been playing with for myself. This was part of a longer piece. See, it's been cut into a couple smaller pieces. So this here is part of that snippet. This is a snippet roll, and this is considered a snippet. So where I've cut it, I've actually pulled threads so that it looks a little shabbier. But I can use them to decorate. Now, earlier I kind of hinted towards what we call our wall of inspiration, where we make different things and we gift them to each other in the Junk Journal Junkies ETC group. So our current project right now is working with cardboard. So this here is my unfinished cardboard project. You know how cardboard has 3 layers, so it's a flat piece, the corrugated piece, and then a flat piece again. Well, what I did is I peeled one of the pieces, and traditionally, well, not traditionally, but one of the options is to paint it with gesso. Well, I didn't have gesso, so what I did is I just used an acrylic paint and added a little water and kind of gave it a little whitewash. And then what I did is I used some music paper and decoupaged a napkin onto that cardboard. Tore the corners. I also placed avocado stained, and I'm not sure what this was. It could have also been some avocado. This paper was swapped because we do different little swaps in the group of distressed paper. So I was using some of my stash for that. But this has a lot more work to go on it. Distressing the corners and, you know, just kind of decorating it up more. But I could very easily use one of these little snippet pieces to decorate. So say I wanted to put that one there. And then what I might do is, I don't know if I have anything in here to, well, just for instance, this is chipboard, something that was racked to me. I've got these little tags, so this little tag could kind of go under here and distress it, and then I could put like a button on top. So really it's just decorating. I could put, you know, a button. This is a vintage button. I think these buttons were around a lot back in the 50s and 60s, because I have a bunch of them. But here, actually, I don't like this tag. These are spring stickers that actually came from Kelly's shop. So I like this, adds a little bit more personality to this. And then let's try an additional piece right here. So I would glue all that down and glue my button. Ta-da! So that's just kind of a for instance. And also, here I have some lace, or actually seam binding, where I would tie it to the top so that my tag has some kind of ornament on top. And this seam binding comes from Kelly's shop too. So it gives you a little bit more idea, at least functionally, what a snippet would do. Now, if it was already decorated, like the other one that I have here, you don't really need all this. I mean, you can still add more to it, but you don't need the button and the sticker and the chipboard. You know, you could just snip it and it could go on right here. So, but anyway, I wanted to do that. So to answer a few questions, again, I want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed so far. So hopefully my videos going forward will make a little more sense, because this is kind of the stuff that I'll be doing. I'll be doing some show and tells, craft with me type of things, some tutorials. My Etsy hopefully will be up and running soon. I have an Etsy store, so as a lot of you know, I do have my In the Sun Creations, so I'm going to try and encompass all of my hobbies into one thing, or one place at least, so that you know, it's easier to find, because I haven't really had an online presence. It's just been vendor, you know, being a vendor at different craft shows or farmer markets, festivals, or selling in my group, you know, the Junk Journal Junkies, etc. So if you are a crafter, if you do scrapbooking, or if any of it sparks an interest and you'd like to come and play with us, by all means, come and look us up. As soon as I figure out how, I'm going to put some links on the YouTube videos so you can find us and me and Kelly and, you know, everybody. We're a pretty big group. The Junk Journal Junkies, etc. has over 11,000 members. There is probably, I want to say 400 active people at any one time. People come and go. Not everyone is active. Some people just watch. Other people create and share. And that's what we like. We like it to be, you know, interactive. It's a large community of kind of like-minded people. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it, and inviting anybody else to come along. Like I said, I just have to kind of figure out the link part. So once I get the links posted, it'll be a little easier to find. But if you know, search out Junk Journal Junkies etc., that's where you'll find us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and help me get the word out so I can grow, and my group can grow. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon.